Hello, my name is Macy Moe, and I am enrolled in an online World Literature 2 class at Middle Georgia State University. And today I will be doing a presentation over Zeami Motokiyo. Zeami Motokiyo was a Japanese playwright in the 14th century. He was born in 1363, and his father was actually a famous Japanese playwright. So that's where he kind of got his exposure to the Japanese playwright culture. How he got famous really was he was in one of his father's plays as a young boy. They were doing a play for a military regime, and he caught the eye of the third shogun of the military regime. That's kind of how he got his role started into the Japanese playwright culture. So he caught the eye, and that's kind of when the military started recognizing the Japanese playwright culture. What Zeami was really famous for was building up what is called No. No is a Japanese dramatic genre. It's a genre of playwrights, and I want to give some key concepts of No before I get into how he got famous for it. This genre became popular in the 14th century, and Zeami is kind of known for being the father of No, you could say. But the inspiration for what No is and what No is remembered as came way before the 14th century. It is, kind of got its building blocks from way later in Japanese culture. There's some key components of No, and there's a limited number of actors on stage in the play, and most of them are male. There's not many female or younger actors, and they are organized into 5 groups depending upon who their protagonist is. So there's 5 categories that No plays are really put into, and those are gods, warriors, women, demons, and miscellaneous. So those 5, that's kind of what they're mainly about. And what is the main part of No, from my understanding, is the emotion that's found in No. There's a limited scene in No, so there's not a big set, there's not dramatic art in the back, there's not going to be a huge palace, there's just going to be, actors. And I think that component of it really makes the actors have to have that emotion. They have to have that big personality and big voice to be able to really get the audience attention. So they have to have strong, like I said, things that they are about, like the gods, the warriors. Those are strong things that they're about, and they also have to have a good emotional connection that they are trying to portray. And they explore strong themes. So they'll have this warrior that will be exploring the theme of love. So that's kind of what No is, and these themes are things like grief, despair, anguish, love, and devotion. So they have to have those strong themes in order to compensate for the low set. So they got to have the powerful actors to be able to portray these themes, to be able to be what No is known for. And Zeami was kind of what built up No in the 14th century. He was the person that made the plays, that had the emotion, that had the actors that would really portray these strong themes. So he caught the eye of the military regime, so that kind of built up No's support. They had the military support. That's why No is still known today, because the Japanese shoguns would put on plays for the diplomats and the foreign people who are visiting the Japanese military base. So that's kind of how it got popular. Unfortunately, the military popularity kind of zoned out for a little while, and I think Zeami was actually exiled to an island because they didn't have that military support anymore. But one play that I really want to focus on that Zeami wrote is Atsumori. A little summary on Atsumori is it was focused on the death. See, they have those strong themes. No plays have to have the theme of death, the theme of devotion and stuff like that. So it was focused on the death of a young warrior, Atsumari, who was caught in the battle between two Japanese clans. So he was on the shore somewhere, and he was saw by a warrior from the opposing clan, and the warrior noticed him, came up to him, and the warrior from the opposing team of Atsumari actually took pity on Atsumari because he realized he was the age of his son. So he was looking at this warrior who was on the opposite team and was looking at him like, this boy is the same age as my son. Like, how is he pitied him. But unfortunately, other people started to notice the situation, and they came up to the two warriors, and ultimately they made the older man warrior kill Atsumari because, you know, he was not on their team. You know, you got to kill him. After he killed Atsumari, he just became consumed in guilt. He did not want to kill Atsumari. He was forced to. This boy was just the age of his own son, and he was forced to kill him. So he was kind of consumed with guilt, and that made him actually change his name and turn into a monk, and pray for the salvation of Atsumari. He was so consumed by guilt that he changed his whole life. He changed his whole religion status to pray for the salvation of Atsumari. Later in the story, the now monk who killed Atsumari is faced with Atsumari's ghost. He's actually disguised, so the monk doesn't really know that he's Atsumari, the guy he killed. It's just a ghost that's disguised. And what actually ultimately ends up happening is the monk prays again for Atsumari, and there is salvation on both of them. So it's actually a happy ending because Atsumari forgives him, so that's good. Now there is a chosen segment that I wanted to talk about from Atsumari Zeami Motokiyo's play, and I'm going to read that to you. The sweet music of the mower's flute, the sweet music of the mower's flute, floats, windborne, far across the fields. Those who gather grass on the yonder hill now start for home, for twilight is at hand. They too head back to Suma by the sea, and their way, like mine, is hardly long. Back and forth I ply, from hill to shore, heart heavy with the cares of thankless toil. Yes, should one perchance ask after me, my reply would speak of lonely grief. On the Suma shore, the salty drops fall fast, though were I known. The salty drops fall fast, though were I known. I myself might hope to have a friend, yet having sunk so low, I am forlorn, and those whom I once loved are strangers now. But I resign myself to what life brings, and accept what griefs are mine to bear, and accept what griefs are mine to bear. So again, the key concept of no is the powerful emotion, and that segment right there really screamed emotion to me. It screamed drama, and it was actually spoken by a youth that stood up he would stand up on the stage and say this out into the crowd, and I think that you know, just having a single person stand and say such a powerful thing really puts into the emotion found in the plays that made Atsumari and the Japanese genre of no so popular. And I think that I'm sorry, I lost my spot. I think that a couple lines really say something for what Atsumari really wanted to portray. I meant Zeami really wanted to portray. One line says, and accept what griefs are mine to bear. So that that line is actually repeated twice. It says, and accepts what griefs are mine to bear, and accept what griefs are mine to bear. And I think that's very valuable because the warrior who killed Atsumari actually accepted the guilt, and he actually changed his whole life in order for Atsumari to have salvation. He's accepting the griefs that are him. No one else killed Atsumari but himself, and he's really accepting that. And I think that was a good line to be repeated twice, because it really has powerful emotion in it. He's now a monk. He's now praying for the salvation of Atsumari daily. And I think everything that was said is kind of the thoughts of the warrior who killed Atsumari. It's him, yes, should one perchance ask after me, my reply would speak of lonely grief. He's grieving Atsumari. He's grieving the warrior, the young warrior that he killed. I think that's the emotion part of it. And it's powerful that the guilt, that emotion that's involved in the Japanese no plays is evident here. It's just this whole theme. It's grief, it's emotion, it's love, it's tragedy. And another thing, it's back and forth I ply from hill to shore, heart heavy with cares of thankless toil. Atsumari was actually slain on the seashore. So back and forth I ply from hill to shore, heart heavy. So I think that when the warrior returns to the shore where Atsumari was slain, it really brings back memories. He's on the shore, his heart is heavy. So I think that with the limited scene found in the Japanese no plays, he kind of has to say, I'm on the shore where Atsumari was slain. So I think that, again, you have to just say those things if you're doing a Japanese no play, because there's no scene behind you. There's just you and your emotion. And I think that's important. And these plays have a lot of connections intertwined into words. You know, he'll say shore, but it can be interpreted in so many different ways. And that's kind of how it, he said, the salty drops fall fast. The salty drops fall fast. It can be interpreted as tears. It can be interpreted as the seashore. I think it has double meanings, and I think that's also very good for a play with emotion. And then again, going back to religion. Religion is a powerful theme in the Japanese culture, period. But and the last really segment that I covered, he says, but I resign myself to what life brings. So he's looking forward to what life has in store for him now. You know, he's trying not to look back on that guilt, and he's trying to mend what he did. He's now a monk that prays for salvation daily. He changed his life. So that's going back to religion and back to the themes of the Japanese no genre. So I think that, you know, the key element of this segment is emotion. And that is very important in Japanese no plays, because you have to have the emotion. I think that's what made Zeami so popular. He had the emotion, he had the themes, he had the topics to cover that really made him popular. And again, this segment, it's just a person standing up and saying these things, but they also can be interpreted so many different ways. So I think that's very important, especially in Japanese culture, for him being so famous in the 14th century and even remembered today, to where we're reading his plays in the 21st century. I think that he definitely had a stamp on the Japanese culture and also the worldly culture. So that's Zeami Motokiyo, who wrote Atsumori, and he is a great Japanese playwright. So that's what he was known for.